In the day's other news, a changing of the guard is also underway in Los Angeles, with voters electing a woman as mayor for the first time. Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass will also be the city's second black mayor. She was declared the winner on Wednesday, defeating a billionaire developer who called for adding police and removing homeless campsites. In Ukraine, air raid sirens blared across the country today as Russian missiles struck more power and gas plants and civilians. At least 4 people were killed, with some 24 others hurt. Amateur video captured one missile strike in the central city of Dnipro during morning rush hour. The blast wounded at least 14 people. A Dutch court today convicted 3 men of murder after shooting down a passenger jetliner over eastern Ukraine in 2014. All 298 people on board were killed when the Malaysia Airlines flight was hit by a Russian missile. Relatives of the dead welcomed today's verdict after a trial lasting 2 years.
It's a difficult day. Maybe, some of the other victims' families may feel some closure from this, and I really hope they do, because it's a real difficult thing going through your life each day, wondering why this happened.
The 2 Russians and a Ukrainian rebel were sentenced to life in prison, but they were tried in absentia and are believed to be in Russia. The Kremlin has long denied any responsibility for the attack. The family of Egyptian dissident Alaa Abdel Fattah says his health has dramatically worsened following a hunger strike. They were allowed to visit him today for the first time in nearly a month. They said he ended the hunger strike after collapsing in what they called a near-death experience. Abdel Fattah has been imprisoned for most of the past decade. The UN climate conference in Egypt has just 1 day left, officially at least, and negotiators say they're still far from a final agreement. Today, protesters in Sharm el-Sheikh marched in support of poorer countries, pushing for compensation from richer, polluting nations. At the conference, the UN Secretary General said the issue has divided the world into halves, but he pressed the need for an agreement.
There has been clearly, in the past times, a breakdown in trust between North and South and between developed and emerging economies. But this is no time for finger-pointing. The blame game is a recipe for mutually assured destruction.
Egypt, as the host country, presented a 20-page draft for final approval, but opponents said it was too long and vague. Asian and Pacific leaders began gathering in Bangkok, Thailand today for a regional summit as China's leader issued a new warning. President Xi Jinping called for rejecting unilateral and protectionist actions in a speech apparently aimed at the U.S. He said, quote, "No attempt to wage a new Cold War will ever be allowed by the people." Back in this country, Starbucks workers staged a 1-day strike at more than 100 U.S. stores. They demanded better pay and more consistent schedules from the giant coffee chain. Some also protested alleged retaliation against union organizing. Starbucks has more than 9,000 U.S. stores. Federal regulators have approved a plan to demolish 4 aging dams on the Klamath River in California. Today's action clears the way to return the lower half of the river to a free-flowing state for the first time in more than a century. That would reopen hundreds of miles of salmon habitat. This was the last major regulatory hurdle for the $500 million project. And on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 7 points to close at 33,546. The Nasdaq fell 38 points and the S&P 500 dropped 12. Still to come on the NewsHour, China faces pressure to reduce its carbon emissions amid a global summit on climate change. Puerto Rico musician Ile condemns colonization and her island's political limbo on her new album. We remember the life and career of longtime NewsHour commentator Michael Gerson, plus much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.